What ruined religion for you?
So many things, but the final straw for me was my church asking a homeless man to leave and not come back. He would sit and listen to the sermons, never bothered anyone, and always sat in the very back. I confronted my youth group leader and she defended the preacher.
I hear stuff like this all the time and it's so infuriating, like what the F? Doesn't the Bible, doesn't your God, teach you to be kind and loving and selfless, to love people no matter what? I've only ever met one church leader, pastor, whatever in my entire life who lived by those teachings. I met him when I had already separated from religion, but he was truly a man of God, if there ever was one. He was what Christianity should look like. He loved everyone, every single person, equally and unequivocally. His church was always open, to everyone from all walks of life. He fed anyone who was hungry. Would literally give you the clothes off his back if you needed them. Offered wisdom and guidance and counseling services. Never tried to push religion on you, just made you feel loved and accepted no matter what. His church was a haven to the homeless. He ran breakfasts every Saturday, cooked huge meals all the time, had gatherings on holidays, and let the homeless use the church for recreation, shelter, food, water, amenities. I don't think I'd have such of an issue with Christianity as a practice if more Christians were like him.
This 13-year-old kid got exposed for being gay and was bullied into suicide by his family for it. I remember during summers they would send him to a special camp to cure his gayness. I was really good friends with his little sister and she would always say how embarrassing it was to have a gay brother and would hope he would become straight. He ended up hanging himself at 13 or 14. It happened in middle school and I can't pretend like I was friends with him, but his story always stuck with me.
When I was sexually assaulted by another boy and I spoke to my pastor because I was afraid to tell my family. He asked me what I did to make the other kid have impure thoughts and tried to make it out to be my fault. That was the exact moment I lost what little faith I had to begin with.
Well, being from Northern Ireland, I have more than the average number of reasons. I guess it's a toss-up between learning that the clergy on both sides had been diddling kids, including selling access to them to rich pedophiles. Learning that the Catholic Church ran women's homes where they kidnapped babies, sold the ones that didn't die and used their mothers as forced labor. Or the classic, that we had a civil war that was largely delineated on religious lines, so people spent 40 years telling their children that the other half were basically scary aliens that meant us harm. Oh yeah, and I liked dinosaurs and the church people kept telling me they weren't real, so F that.
Seeing a whole congregation of people perform an exorcism on a 5-year-old boy. I was a teen youth leader at a Southern Baptist church I had been involved with for several years. During Sunday morning service one day, one of the deacons came from the children's church building next door and interrupted the preacher to whisper something in his ear. They both left immediately, and when they returned, were dragging a 4 or 5-year-old boy down the aisle who was screaming like a banshee. They ended up taking him in front of the church, holding him down, and reciting all sorts of bullpoo about demonic possession, asking the churchgoers to come up to him and help banish the demon from the child. Kinda ruined God for me.
The worst part about this is that they never suspect the child to be autistic.
I wouldn't doubt that he was autistic. But really, what I attributed it to more than anything was that the child was growing up in a single-parent home with a mother who was recovering from de-addiction and she struggled a lot with raising her 2 kids. They both acted out a lot. The child wasn't possessed. He just needed love.
How agonizingly long and tedious Mass was as a Roman Catholic kid. Stand up, sing, sit down, then kneel, then stand again, sing again, sit down, stand up, kneel and pray, then 30 minutes of droning from the robed guy at the front. Then stand up and sing. Sit down, stand up, WTF, please make this end. When I was 12, my father pulled me aside and said, "Son, you're old enough to decide about religion. I wanted to give you a chance to experience religion. If you want to keep going to church, you can, but it's also okay if you don't want to go anymore." I said, "Okay, I don't want to go anymore." My father said, "Okay, me too." And that was that. I was like 15 and playing an instrument in the worship band for the most popular youth group in the area, which is a very Christian area. At one point the pastor dude was praying and the musicians were behind him waiting to play when he was done. The whole room, 200 plus, had their heads bowed as dude was praying. Then his prayer went into the hole. Here's what you pray if you want to become a Christian right now, yada yada yada. Then at the end he says, okay everyone keep your heads bowed, eyes closed. Now if you just prayed that prayer with me I want you to look up. Everyone else keep your heads bowed, but if you just now gave your life to Jesus look up at me or raise your hand so I can see you. I'm behind him, and facing the crowd who have their eyes closed, so I decide it's safe to take a peek. I discreetly look up and notice that exactly 0 people in the crowd are looking up at him. Every single person still has their head bowed, eyes closed. Which is fine. I mean maybe they were all already Christians. However as I'm looking at nobody responding, Mr. Pastor starts saying, okay I see you there. Oh I see another over there. Amen, and you back there. Praise God. Yes I see you over there. Amen come find me afterwards. It was perplexing to see him lie to so many people like that. And this wasn't some nobody youth pastor. He was like quite legit, having written books and being mentioned in national articles and stuff. TLDR. An acclaimed youth pastor tried to make it seem like his prayer had converted several people, when I could clearly see it had not.
That's effing hilarious. I've been to services like those, and I've always wondered.
Seeing how people use religion as an excuse to be pooty people around the world. So many people just bend their interpretation of a religion to fit whatever they want.
Religious leaders ruined religion for me.
I never met a single priest who could tell me about heaven, but they all knew every square inch of hell. They built it.
I actually had the experience of attending a small Christian church for many years that had a pastor who was very intelligent, well-read and open for debates and discussions. His description of heaven was that heaven is whatever brings you closer to God. Whether it's here on earth or after our time here isn't the point. Of course he took a very Christian perspective, but did so without ruling out other religious paths in getting to that place. I thought that was pretty good.
I was 15. My father had been diagnosed with ALS. I had gone to a youth group thing with a Christian friend of mine, and they had a circle of teenagers going around talking about things going on in their lives and relating it to God. When it was my turn, I shared that my father was dying and I didn't understand why him. I was angry and I said something along the lines of I doubted there was a God if this was happening. Basically a normal thing to say when you're young and you have a sick relative. I got chewed out for even questioning God, and the rest of the kids refused to talk to me the rest of the night, including my friend. You would think I had killed someone, it was that strong of a reaction. Also, my brother became a huge born-again Christian later on in life and tried to push his beliefs on us hard. We got told we were going to hell, and my then boyfriend, now husband, and I got chewed out for living in sin. Editing this because I didn't expect this comment to get much attention, but thank you everyone for all of the supportive comments. A few things to add because I keep seeing them below and will do my best to try to answer. But youth group happened close to 20 years ago. I was actually brought up Catholic and went to church weekly. I stopped going when my dad got sick and he couldn't go anymore, so that my mom could continue to go. She needed the hour or so break and I wanted some one-on-one time with my dad. We took care of him at home for the majority of his illness. Church also meant more to her than it did to me, but towards the end she stopped going too. I was drawn to youth group because I was curious what Christianity was like, and my friend had painted it as a supportive place. We didn't have youth groups at my church. I also thought questioning God was more or less normal. I wasn't a jerk about it either. I was very introverted and hated confrontation. I just wanted some kind of conversation, and these kids seemed like they were strong in their faith. Looking back, I guess I wished I could find comfort in religion. My brother became born again after my grandmother passed in 2012. The majority of his jerkishness happened over the next 3 to 4 years until he switched to a different church. He mellowed out a bit, and my mother and my other brother, finally came to an understanding that if we wanted a relationship we wouldn't discuss his religion. I get the occasional, "You should come to my church," but that's nothing compared to what he used to say. I also tolerate it for my mom, because all she has left is us. I'm not going to start arguments or refuse to go to holidays. She's been through enough. I also know that my brother is not a bad person, he just goes 100% into whatever he's currently into, and religion wasn't any different. I'm 34, female. I don't go to church. I'm not religious. Married a guy who leans towards being an atheist. This all happened a while ago, and again, I really appreciate all the supportive comments and messages. You guys are good humans.
My brother-in-law did the same thing after abandoning a child. Couldn't stop talking about God and about how everyone around him is a sinner, when he was doing meth and beating woman and child. Now he has triplets with another methed-out girl who already had a kid where they also beat each other. His whole shtick is being a real alpha man, and his life is so pathetically ruined because I don't wear condoms, they don't feel good, effing loser.
My mother. She instilled some serious shame into me under the guise of God. Some things she said. Not allowed to believe in Santa because that takes credit away from God. Santa was actually a hand of Satan trying to corrupt me. Not allowed to believe in the Easter Bunny because it was also a hand of Satan trying to corrupt me away from Jesus. I wasn't allowed to feel pride in my accomplishments because it's a sin. I was a DK head because my dad got me fully vaccinated as a child, and that is against God's plan. Hollywood is operated by Satan, so I wasn't allowed to watch movies or shows, especially Disney. Harry Potter was an absolute no because witchcraft is an affront to God. Scientists should not be trusted under any circumstances. My rare genetic condition was part of God's plan, and I'd understand someday. Not allowed to say, damn, because it's an affront to God, etc. That combined with her regular, not religious abuse has left me struggling a lot with my religiosity.
It sounds similar to what I was raised to believe, but not to that extreme. I think some people go overboard.
When the pastor started ranting about the evils of women, saying that Satan walks among us in the body of every female and men must take measures against them. It was later enforced in my mind when I met his very timid granddaughter in high school. She fully believed she was cursed from birth and showed serious signs of abuse. It didn't make me think all Christians are evil, but it showed me how easily a religion led by humans can be warped. That theme has been shown to me too many times now to get behind the idea of any formal religion. ETA, wow, I have never had this many comments on a post. Trying to read everything but the main things I'm seeing. The granddaughter ended up happily married. She started getting rebellious in high school, but nothing crazy. I forget if she had been homeschooled or was at a local Christian school, but I do know that at that time all students went to the same high school. Late 1990s. I think her getting exposed to outside attitudes and influences helped her see the world in a whole new way. I swear, the term, Among Us, was used before the game, lol. I haven't played the game, but now I'm picturing the red character I've seen from it at a pulpit yelling about original sin and evil women, and I can't help laughing. It was a Baptist church that hasn't been active for years. Again, I don't think everyone in the Baptist faith is like that, but it was the one moment that ruined religion for me. Especially seeing his wife react to the sermon with such support of the message. It was one of those defining moments in my life, a very negative one, and I'm sorry to see so many others who have had this kind of experience themselves.
For me, it was when everyone found out tons of priests were effing little kids and the church protected them instead of punishing them and reporting it to the police.
When I was 6 years old, the pastor gave a letter to my aunt to give to my mom saying that we were not donating enough money to the church. So we stopped going, and I have never been to church since.
Something like this happened to my friend's grandma. The church wrote her a letter basically saying they knew how much money she was making and that she should be giving more to the church. Her response was, "Screw you guys, I'm moving to Mexico."
Being kicked out of Christian school prior to the 3rd grade because my mum bought the wrong edition of the Bible.
There are more than one editions of the Bible.
People using it to justify their hate.
People using it to justify everything LMAO.
Going to a megachurch. They received over $1 million in donations every weekend and spent it on elaborate props and videos rather than helping the community in any meaningful way.
I was taken to a megachurch once for a Christmas thing, and the very first thing I saw upon entering was a life-size bronze statue of the pastor. All I could think was, isn't this a false idol?
There was never an answer. I wanted to believe desperately. I wanted to, and I begged God to allow me to be doubtless. I tried and tried and tried to make it work. To make it fit. I asked questions. I wondered. I pondered. I just got to a point where there were no more answers. No one had an answer that made sense. Nothing that the next person couldn't alter or contradict. Nothing that was set or fixed. It was all up in the air, and I just needed more faith. I tried. I really did. but my mind just won't allow it anymore.
The non-answers to all my questions as a kid. You just have to have faith, is a dumb way to respond to an inquisitive mind.
When I was a kid, I asked my grandmother where God came from and she smacked me across the face and said, "We don't ask questions like that." I was just being honestly curious because I wanted to understand, and her reaction shocked me. That's where it all started for me.
I worked at a restaurant near a church on Sundays. Rudest bunch of people ever. Edit, thank you for the likes and awards.
Some people believe that being religious makes them better than non-religious. When I left the church I was persona non grata. None of the members will even look at me now. Oh well.
The fact that if you're not in my religion, you're kinda F-ed in the afterlife. I didn't choose my religion, so what makes me so special?
My mother telling me Santa wasn't real by saying, "Do you really believe that there is a magic man that files to all the houses worldwide in one night on a sleigh?" I had always been skeptical anyways, but that solidified it. I then wondered at what age she would tell me God isn't real.
The intolerance between different religions, it's harmful to society.
Its followers.
I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Mahatma Gandhi.
It quickly became evident that many people who call themselves religious only do so to feel morally superior to others around them, and then use that superiority to try to control everything they can.
I like to say that Jesus was a carpenter, who gave his followers a hammer to build with. They took the hammer and started hitting other people with it.
Being told that being sexually abused as a child was a good thing, as God needed to teach me a lesson on hubris and ego. I should accept it as a lesson and be better so I wouldn't fall into the clutches of the devil. I was 7. Apparently I was asking for it.
Same. My aunt said I was asking for it, as a 5-year-old. Edit. Wow, thank you all for your support. I blamed myself my whole childhood, so I'm thankful Reddit can help cheer me up. Tears up.
Sermons alternated between asking for money, telling us LGBT people were bad, or telling us we were all worthless sinners without God. Left church every Sunday feeling like poo. One week, I just decided I'm not going back. I don't miss it.
The fact that there are multiple, but I was taught that only one is correct.
The idea that you're created by an omniscient God, and they give you free will, but with chastise you for using that exact free will is kinda bullpoo.
When they say God loves us and has a plan for everyone. Then you read about children sold into slavery or trafficking. How can an all-loving God think, my plan for this child is abuse and torture, then murder?
The lack of compassion and rejection of science.
Religious people.
Only God has the right to judge, yet religious people are the most judgmental people you can meet. Anybody who has a different view to them. Also, if you've ever been to a church, they all gossip about each other. Talk about not practicing what you preach. Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.